Well there, I decided to do this video outside. It was a beautiful late January day, almost feels like spring outside, so anyway, this is where we'll start the Bonneromics saga. Now the first thing I wanted to talk about today is why we have health insurance in the first place. Why not just have everyone pay everything out of pocket? Wouldn't that be a simpler way to do it? Well, problem with that is that you have no idea, no way of knowing ahead of time just how much care you're going to need. Some people get lucky and don't have to spend anything on medical expenses going that way. I'll admit I'm uninsured. I have been for several years, and I've been very, very lucky not to have any bills. But if something bad happened, it would not be a pleasant sight. So the whole purpose of insurance is that it redistributes the costs from the unlucky towards the lucky. So basically it takes fortune and misfortune out of the game and redistributes the expenses more equally across society. One of the problems, of course, you have is if you don't have insurance, then people will take their chances and not go see to the doctor when something could be wrong, and then the problem ends up getting worse and it costs more in the end. And so if nobody had insurance, if health insurance didn't exist, then there'd be a lot more of that risky behavior, because nobody would want to go and say, they go to the doctor, they'd be afraid. There's something called human fear, where they'd go to the doctor and they'd be afraid that they'd end up with a big bill, so they don't go to the doctor out of fear that maybe nothing's wrong, and then eventually when they finally do go and something bad happens, it's a lot worse. There's other things. For example, if you don't have insurance, then you're also likely to avoid any sort of social behavior that might have some risk of injury, whether it be outdoor activities, sports of certain kinds, because if you get injured you end up with a big bill. So it makes people more cautious, not doing enjoyable activities or very healthy activities because there's a slight risk of injury. Whereas it makes more sense if everybody has insurance, then they can all go out and do those activities, and the few people who get injured have the insurance cover the bills, and everybody pays a little bit so that the few people who get unlucky don't have to pay a lot. That's basically all that insurance is. It's a way of redistributing the expenses of something when people don't know ahead of time whether or not they're going to need to pay for the service. That's how auto insurance works. You get in a crash, in a collision, there might be injuries, there might be car damage. You don't know ahead of time whether or not that's going to happen. So basically insurance takes the luck of the draw out of the financial and economic outcomes, so that way unlucky people don't suffer. And everybody pays a little bit of the cost of the burdens. It's a way of socializing costs. Now, one of the problems with health insurance is that it's prone to something called market failures, but I'm not going to get into that today. It's a very simple thing. I just wanted to let you know that why insurance exists is so that risks, the expenses caused by random risks don't end up falling on the unlucky few, but are distributed out across society. It's a form of fairness, you could say, argue in that sense. And I believe that that's the right way to go. In a society, we shouldn't expect the unlucky few to be caught paying all the bills and have their finances ruined, and while everybody else gets by just fine. I sure as hell don't believe in that. I'm sure there's some radical social and economic Darwinists who would, but thankfully I'm not one of them, and I don't have a lot of patience with those types of moral values. So, anyway, next time we'll talk about why health insurance has problems, and then hopefully eventually after that we'll get into some of the solutions proposed for the problems. Anyway, hope you enjoyed, and hope you're enjoying this gorgeous weather outside. Bye.